Hey everybody, welcome to another Fundamental Games game preview on Tabletop Simulator. Today I'm bringing to you a game called Battle Peak. This is let's take a look. The greatest wizard in all the land has dabbled in foul magic to get rid of all evil once and for all. Now he has accidentally summoned his worst enemy yet, himself. So in this game, 2 to 4 players will be playing on the highest mountain using elements to take down each other because, well, one of them is the evil one and one of them's not. I don't know which is which, to be honest, but either way, all these wizards are kind of identical representations of each other, trying to take each other down on the top of this epic battle. This, what do we call it? Battle Peak. Alright, so 5 things that I like about this game so far. I have watched a full playthrough and I've tested out a couple turns. I haven't played through a full game yet, but I understand the premise enough to tell you what 5 things I think are interesting enough for me to pay attention to this game. So the first one is that wizard duels can be fun. I've played Magic the Gathering. I've played, what is that? There's another one that was recently brought out by an indie publisher, Wizards and Relics. That was fun. Any games where you're slinging spells at each other can be entertaining. Arakan Wars I played recently on Tabletop Simulator in a print and play. But these games where often it's mono a mono or 4-player free-for-all can be fun because you're just finding ways to use the cards that you draw and the components on the table and the landscape to take one another down. And that can be fun, and it's always interesting when I get a chance to see that. I enjoy competitive games that way. Second thing I like about it is that it's got a very simple premise and a simple board that kind of develops over time. So the board is just this hexagonal mountaintop, and it will add on tiles as people fall to their deaths or take damage off the side of a mountain. So it's kind of neat that the board can expand, but it's pretty straightforward. It's not a gargantuan map. There's not a tons of different terrain to worry about to start with, and movement is pretty straightforward. You just can move towards your opponents or any direction you want. There's little cyclones that get in the game that will move in the same direction that they're pointed in. So the game mechanic is pretty straightforward, and basically the premise of the game is be the last player standing. So if you take 3 damage, you are out of the game. And there might be ways to recover damage or to prevent yourself from taking damage, but that's just it. Lose 3 damage, out of the game. So it's not like some of the games where you have to go through 20 life or make somebody go through their entire deck. It's just a simple premise. You share the same public deck. You each draw a hand of cards, and you'll be playing those cards to try to take one another down on this mountaintop. Third thing I like is that the board does change as you play. It makes the game more dynamic. So if we look through some of these spells here, let's take a look here. On this one, you could summon a whirlwind. On this one, there's it doesn't change the board. We'll look at one that changes the board. This one here, you can summon some ice, and we'll pull up one more. This one here, you can summon. All right, let's start with this one. So you could summon ice tiles. So if I place ice tiles on the board, what that does is it will make it so that if a player steps on an ice tile, they actually slide across to the next open tile. So you could set it up so the ice tiles affect you to the edge of the board, and you may cast a spell that pushes an opponent back, slides across the ice tiles you made, and they drop off the edge of the cliff, taking a damage. Or you may place a lava pit, and if somebody goes on a lava pit, if they start their turn there, I believe they take a damage. Or you may summon, like I said, a cyclone, or you might summon multiple cyclones, and those cyclones will drive into players and push them into ice or off cliffs and potentially take damage. So just kind of neat how the board changes. There's this little vortex you can do that rotates players around. So even though the game play at the beginning is simple and straightforward, it could get complex by the end of the game as you're trying to massage your wizards around these different threats and hazardous tiles that might exist there. So that's pretty cool. Or you could just put a slab of rock, meaning you can't even do anything to that rock. You can't go through it unless you have a special power. So I like that the game offers a way to change up the board and the tiles throughout gameplay. Every player can impact the board in different ways, so you never know what to expect. The next thing I like about it is that spells double as the cost of spells. So let's say, for example, I draw myself a hand of cards. We'll go back to this player, and I might not have this many cards in my hand when I'm playing, but let's say I do. This card here has a wind symbol on the top left, and to to do the summon power, it costs a wind, or if you want to do the 3 cyclone summon power, it costs 2 winds. So in addition to playing this card that costs a wind, I would also have to spend a wind to do the top power, the summon, or if I wanted the second power, this is a wild card, can be used as any element. I could use 2 wind and put those in the discard pile to cast this spell. And if you cast a more powerful version of a spell, generally more dangerous things happen, more beneficial things happen to you. Gotta love the artwork as well, that kind of sketchy, cartoonish type art. It's like in a wizard scrapbook. Kind of neat how that cartoonish look to it. But anyway, I like how that spells in your hand are not just spells, they're also the components to cast them. And I've seen some other games do this as well. And it's a way to manage mana without having mana on the table or having to have lands that you tap. It's just your hand is your resource in more ways than one. So that's cool. And then the fifth thing I like about the game when I was reading through the rules and watching the playthrough and getting a taste for it myself is these dust piles. So a dust pile is a place where when you have played a spell or used a spell as a component, it goes into that particular spell's dust pile or that particular element's dust pile. And then it says here, cast at any time, spend 4 fire. So I'd have to have 4 fire in my dust pile, and then I could remove any 1 object except for the last summon object. So it's kind of a bonus action. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you've spent enough in that particular element, you can get the perk of removing this rock out of your way, or maybe this lava tile is going to cause you problems, so you remove that by using the 4 cards and getting those out of the game. So I thought that was kind of a neat way to have your spells have a secondary effect. It reminds me of a game I backed on Kickstarter a while back called, what was it? Something Wild? Well, I can't even remember the name of it, but you're playing with these anthropomorphic animal creatures using a deck, and everything that you use goes to a resource pile that can be used a second time before they're out of the game. And this reminds me of that. But this one's kind of different because it puts them in 4 different piles. So the more earth spells I cast, the more likely I will to be able to use this earth power inner surge and get myself a bonus action, which could change the scope of the game, give myself an unexpected benefit that my opponents might not realize. So there you have it. That's 5 things I like about this game called Battle Peak. I believe they're coming to Kickstarter in a little while. I think it's this summer, if I remember correctly. So I'll be checking that out once the campaign's live. But I just kind of like this very simplistic art style. The board, the mechanics, the cards all kind of work together in this lighthearted game where you're trying to push each other off the mountain in an epic wizard battle to the death. Contradictory terms there. As always, thanks for watching. If you like anything about this game, by all means, make a note in the comments, or if you've seen a game like this, let me know. I think this is going to be their very first Kickstarter game before they go on to a more complex game, so I'm curious to see how this will do. Take care.